Peace and power, peace and power, peace, power, and prosperity. Uh, this is Yafeuh Balogun. Talk to you live again one more time, talking about the history, which I think and we know is very important to be able to refer and um, to be able to acknowledge the importance of history and the value that history play in the role of overall development of a person and group is very significant. So that's kind of more or less what I'm going to be discussing here tonight is the value of history and the importance of history at the same time. Um, Last conversation was setting the foundation, if you will, for Timber Park, talking about Timber Park and what we were able to do initially to kind of revisit it briefly. We were organizing at Timber Park on or around 2007, initially starting in 2007 as a People's Lunch Counter, which is basically an organization that became uh, its mission was designed to promote vegetarian lifestyle and holistic health. That was the mission of the PLC, People's Lunch Counter. From the PLC, ultimately developed what is commonly known today as GMF or Guerrilla Mainframe. And Guerrilla Mainframe is an organization that promotes militancy, discipline, and also attempts to continue the efforts of the People's Lunch Counter in terms of lifestyle, as far as dieting, things of this nature. And as of late, even promotion of spirituality, spiritual efforts as well for an individual, that is. And so GMF has been a group that has helped lay the foundation for militancy, not only here in the city of Dallas, Texas, but also, truthfully, around the country. Guerrilla Mainframe, through its efforts, helped initiate a number of different groups. Uh, One notably is Huey P. Newton Gun Club, which has spread nationally. Second to that, of course, would be Geronimo Tactical. And so there have been a number of groups, initiatives, coalitions that the Guerrilla Mainframe has played a role in, has helped develop. And so our discussion has been kind of the why to that. Initially, of course, we was talking about the history and talking about Timber Park, talking about some of the common characters that we dealt with at Timber Park, or some of the protagonists or antagonists we dealt with was some D boys. One, the leader of the group, was named Scudder. Scudder was the leader of the group, and he basically was more of from what we heard about Scudder, he made a few threats in our direction in terms of how he was going to attempt to derail our patrol efforts. Again, this is the 2007 to 2009 timeframe. This is long before a group called Open Carry Texas became prominent here in the state of Texas, which basically, on a national level, reinvigorated the conversation about gun laws and things of this nature. And so this is prior to Open Carry Texas, prior to uh, groups being knowledgeable about their ability to possess firearms here in the state of Texas, and it's obviously predated a lot of the shootings that we've come known today, or experiences. I call them, of course, massacres that have occurred uh, through where people were murdered in more or less what's commonly defined today as mass shootings. So all of this that I'm discussing predates all of that um, by far. And our whole objective and mission, myself, Eric Caffrey, Mel Chesedek Gibbs, Saida Williams, who were all there and who all started this movement. Essentially, our whole position was to promote vegetarian lifestyle, holistic health, and also promote safety in the community. Uh, we ran across Scudder. Scudder was more or less like a gentleman drug dealer, if that would make sense. Initially, we thought that he was going to be very aggressive, but he took a position of he wanted to observe us more than anything else. And so, with that being stated, um, with that being stated, uh, our position on Scudder is that we didn't necessarily deal with him necessarily directly. We did have some conversations with Scudder about what was going on in the community, and ultimately, he then respected it and decided to move his operation to a different area. More or less kind of slow down what he was doing at the Timber Park apartment complex. This, of course, did not happen overnight. This, of course, was after a long-standing conflict uh, with some of the characters that were there, and I say characters not in a negative sense, but just saying people that were there, some of the street elements that were there, the conversations that we had with some of the people that was there. Also, I'm sure that it had to do with some of the competition that he may have experienced as well. But we were able to go into that community, Timber Park apartment complex, which is essentially an apartment complex with about maybe 150 to 200 units, and we were able to slow down a lot of the negativity that existed. And the way that we was able to do that exceptionally was by developing relationships. So oftentimes when we hear about the police patrolling the community, and we figure, you know, that a lot of times they're unable or at least unwilling to derail some of these issues, it's probably because they don't have the relationships to be able to do it successfully. Our objective was we wanted to go in, build the relationships, and be able to figure out, kind of what the situation was and how best we can, number one, we can continue to survive, but also we can have our programs thrive and have community supported. So by going in initially, we did something which we call now Community Unification Day, which we called it then as well, CUD or Community Unification Day. We were able to organize a large event and invite people to come and to talk about the issues. But also, what this did was it promoted for them to be accepting of what our program was about because they got them a chance to actually talk to us. So the next time that we saw them, whether it be in the community or whether it be just passing by, they would then speak. This, of course, in the long run, sort of created a situation where the Dallas Police Department didn't like us, and this is kind of where I pick up with part two. The Dallas Police Department didn't like what we were doing because it really created a situation where they would lose their contract. And anybody know anything about the police department? Oftentimes, the police department can take side jobs at the grocery store. They can take side jobs at Walmart. They can take side jobs at restaurants. They can also take side jobs doing apartment security. And so we ultimately took away one of their more lucrative opportunities, or weekend money, if you will, by being productive as we were. Um, my position was I wanted to really kind of try or really put the challenge to some of the theories that I had read. I had read Huey P. Newton in terms of intercommunalism, some of the revolutionary nationalists, and even some of the socialist ideas. I had read a lot of those writings and wanted to really have a chance to kind of put some of those things in action and see exactly what would have happened or what would occur if I were to engage them to their maximum extent. And so, with my engagement, or what we call community engagement, I was able to challenge. I was able to see some things that I could learn from, also see some things that I thought that I need to change or wouldn't necessarily work for me per se. And so, with that being stated, I decided to continue forward, but at the same time, um, again, it made the police department very upset about what we were doing because again, it took away from the funds, the income, the money that they made. Now, this is what happened. One particular day, the Dallas Police Department, they had a neighborhood police officer. he went in to the office, and he was he was like, um, uh, I heard that we had a situation where the guys that was doing community patrols, which he was mentioning us, and this is him talking to the management. He was saying that we wasn't exactly 100% respectful, if you will, of the police, because what had happened previously is they were attempting to get what they wanted to try to uh, have us kind of work with them as close as possible. And truthfully, this is what the apartments wanted to. They wanted to see us work with the department. Our position has never been to directly work with the police in any way, shape, or form, especially in a situation where we're living in the community, and we wanted the community to overly trust us, regardless of what they did, regardless of their background, whatever it is that they were doing. We wanted the respect of the community. Um, and so we decided not to even participate with anything that had to do with the police, not even the neighborhood meetings that they always want us to attend. That's what they wanted us to come to. They wanted us to participate in their neighborhood kind of community meetings and kind of describe, to talk about some of the things we see. We never did participate. When I'm talking about we, I'm predominantly talking about myself and Mel Chesedek. That we never really did. We never participated in any of that, and so they sort of took offense to it. And so when they took offense to it, what we decided to do, because they was a very aggressive on how they presented their argument, and to the point where they were trying to intimidate the apartment management. Uh, they were trying to intimidate department management. I took it upon myself to kind of be very aggressive with how we dealt with them. So anytime that we saw the police and we made it known to them and the community that, hey, you know, we have no parts of this. Our objectives is to try to patrol the community and create some sort of self determination for our community here, to show that uh, we can kind of control the politics of our community without necessarily having the police on involved in every single incident. Now, of course, there are some incidents. Obviously, the police are going to be engaged in, but we're not going to volunteer that. Okay, that's not anything that we're going to volunteer. Okay, so that's not anything that we was volunteering. So that's sort of what made them upset the most. Ultimately, what ended up happening in terms of Scudder, uh, the police department set up a raid, and they ended up raiding his apartment. They ended up raiding his apartment. They only hit one apartment at that particular time, and it basically, um, along with our efforts of trying to deter it, because we was often trying to deter some of these guys. Now they didn't make any arrests, they didn't take anybody to jail, anything of that nature. In fact, he wasn't even there, but they did kick down his door and kind of move things around enough to warn him to want to ensure that, hey, he didn't want to be there anymore. And I guess anytime that you would have a situation where the police will come onto your house and shake a few things up, maybe you'll think twice about doing other things as well, at least where they know you're at. And so that's sort of kind of what happened in that particular situation. In terms of this second phase of Timber Park, is once that occurred, then it created a situation where other folks was trying to capitalize off the vacuum that was left. Our objective was to try to control all of that as much as we can, but also at the same time stay alive. And so the what ended up happening is our attempts were designed to try to create a situation where kids can continue to come outside, continue to come out and play. And fortunately, we didn't have a situation where there was a lot of violence. Okay, and that's one thing that I do want to express, is that there wasn't violence that exists in the community, meaning that there wasn't shootouts, there wasn't people getting assaulted, there wasn't aggravated assaults, there wasn't a whole lot of break-ins, there wasn't any of that stuff. We kind of sort of deterred that because we patrolled the community uh, typically from 10 p.m. at night to somewhere up and around 4, and we were very visible. Okay, and so with us being active, it sort of kind of deterred it, and then the people more or less had a lot of respect for it, what we were doing. They had a lot of respect for what we were doing, and so that's why they didn't truthfully engage and destroy property and kick in apartment doors and vandalize the property, things of that nature. We created a situation whereas people felt more so comfortable. We created a situation where the occupancy rate of the area went up. So anytime that you know the occupancy rate of the area goes up, but also at the same time, based upon reports that we read that crime goes down, then you know ultimately we're doing a great job. And so the take from this for me was being publicly active, being seen, and the community acknowledging and being receptive of us being active and being seen, and there being a receptive and accepting and also giving, because not only did we also create a situation was we did mutual aid, but we also brought others and people within the community also participated in mutual aid efforts for each other. So this created a situation which is commonly referred to as a level of determination. And that's ultimately what we were designed to do. Because anytime that you go in and try to create a program, once you leave, you don't want that program to cease. You don't want the program to stop. You don't want the program to dissolve. You don't want the program to end. The objective is to create a program, and if you leave are no longer a part of that program, that the community themselves will pick up that same program and continue forward. And in many ways, that objective was reached. Uh, but anyhow, that's sort of my talk. At this particular point, I just kind of want to stress the value of being active, stress the value of being committed, and talk about Scudder. And Scudder ultimately ended up transitioning. He's no longer with us. And that's kind of why I'm sort of speaking about it a little more candidly now. But he's no longer with us. He's transitioned. But that's sort of what kind of got us started in terms of Black Open Carry, in terms of Guerrilla Mainframe, in terms of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, in terms of grassroots militancy that has ultimately spread around the country. Its basis and its foundation or its influences in some degree has its roots within Temple Park apartment complex. Peace.